Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers' weekly roast. Today, the final lesson, Skinner, Chalmers, and the heat death of everything.
Well, hello there, listeners. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Skinner and Chalmers' weekly roast. I'm your host, Seymour Skinner, and sitting across from me is the man who's always on time for dinner, but never for my excuses, Superintendent Gary Chalmers.
Always a pleasure, Seymour, though I have to admit I'm more interested in what you'll be roasting. Besides dinner, of course. What do we have on the menu today?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Today, thanks to the suggestion for this episode from Magpie 1862 again, we're diving into one of my most creative culinary cover-ups yet. Let's just say it's a cosmic excuse that involves the inevitable fate of the universe itself.
The inevitable fate of the universe. Seymour, did you burn your stew so badly you caused a black hole in the kitchen?
Not quite, but you're on the right track. I'm talking about the heat death of the universe. It's a little something I came up with to explain a recent, fiery incident in the kitchen.
I see where this is going. Let me guess. You burnt another one of your world-famous recipes, and instead of blaming the oven, you blamed the entire cosmos.
Exactly. But it's not just any blame game, Gary. We're talking about the ultimate fate of all matter, the point where everything has run out of usable energy. It was the perfect excuse.
You know, Seymour, I've heard some outlandish explanations from you over the years. The aurora borealis in your kitchen, that was something. But the heat death of the universe, I have to say this one takes the cake, assuming it wasn't burned too.
I like to think of it as my magnum opus of excuses, but I didn't pull it off alone. Sonic and Shadow were there too, right in the middle of the action.
Sonic and Shadow. Now that's a twist. I'm guessing they didn't just stand there and watch the universe collapse?
Oh, you better believe it, Chalmers. And hey there, dear listeners. It's been a while since we appeared in your podcast, but back to the great Skinner excuse. I was zooming around, trying to put out the flames while Seymour was rattling off about entropy and the end of time.
And I was standing there, questioning my life choices as usual. It was chaos, but also somehow predictable, and also from me. Hello there, listeners.
You see, Gary, with Sonic's speed and Shadow's brooding intensity, we had quite the team effort in that kitchen.
I'm sure it was a sight to behold. So, Seymour, was this before or after you declared the kitchen a no-cook zone?
Oh, this was definitely after. But, rules were made to be broken. Like eggs. Unfortunately, these eggs just happened to break into a fiery disaster.
And you should have seen him, Chalmers. He was waving around a spatula like it was some kind of cosmic scepter, declaring the inevitable doom of breakfast.
If by inevitable doom, you mean charred pancakes and scrambled eggs that look like they'd been through a supernova, then yes, it was a cataclysmic event.
I'm starting to think the real mystery isn't the heat death of the universe, but how your kitchen still exists, Seymour.
It's a marvel of memifield engineering, Gary. Built to withstand anything. Even the end of all things, apparently.
Well, if your kitchen can survive that, I'm sure we can survive this episode. But I have to know, how did you explain this heat death to Sonic and Shadow in the heat of the moment, so to speak?
Oh, it was a stroke of genius, really. I launched into a full explanation of entropy and how, over time, everything in the universe will reach a state where no energy can be used for work. And that's why the flames just had to happen.
And there I was, speed, dousing the flames while trying to wrap my head around the idea that breakfast could end the universe.
Meanwhile, I was trying to figure out if this was some kind of elaborate prank, or if Seymour actually believed his own excuse. Either way, it was an experience, if only because I was able to see Seymour's wonderful palm tree in the entrance area again.
I'm guessing it was the latter, knowing Seymour. Although, admittedly, that sounds kind of wrong, Shadow, but I have to give it to you, Seymour. That's one way to deflect responsibility. Just blame the inevitable march of entropy.
Exactly. And it's hard to argue with the laws of thermodynamics, right?
You're right about that, but somehow I think we're going to have to dig a little deeper into this heat death business, if only to figure out how you managed to turn a kitchen fire into a lesson on the end of the universe.
Oh, we'll get there, Gary, but using the heat death was quite the cosmic concept to throw around in the middle of a kitchen fire.
Yeah, I'd say it's a bit much for an excuse, even by your standards, Seymour, but I have to admit it's got me intrigued. I mean, how exactly did you manage to connect burning food to the ultimate fate of the cosmos?
Oh, you guys missed a real spectacle. 1 minute, we were all just hanging out. And the next, Seymour's kitchen turned into ground zero for a universe-ending event. Or at least, that's how he explained it.
It was surreal. I've seen some bizarre things in my time, but watching Seymour try to rationalize a cooking disaster with theoretical physics, that's a new one.
It's all about framing, really. You see, when you think about the heat death of the universe, it's a slow, inevitable process where everything just... the energy disperses, matter decays, and eventually nothing can happen anymore. It's like the universe just burns out.
At some point, the universe will whisper its last goodbye until everything will be silent forever in ultimate uniformity.
Well, that's a bit dramatic. So, Seymour, you're saying that your kitchen was just following the natural order of things, that it was only a matter of time before everything went up in flames.
Precisely. It's entropy at work, Gary. Everything naturally trends towards disorder, and my kitchen was just ahead of the curve. It was beyond heat death, almost on the verge of a new Big Bang.
Ahead of the curve. More like off the rails. You should have seen the look on Shadow's face when you started talking about thermodynamics while the toaster was still on fire.
I was trying to process the fact that our breakfast was now a smoldering pile of ash, and meanwhile, you were giving a lecture on the second law of thermodynamics.
I can only imagine. But Seymour, you've really got me wondering. Do you even understand what the heat death of the universe is? Or were you just throwing around fancy words to distract us from the smell of burnt toast?
A little bit of both, honestly. But I do know a thing or two about it. The heat death of the universe is a theory that predicts the eventual fate of the universe. It's the point when everything has reached a state of maximum entropy, no more usable energy, no more processes, just stillness. It's the ultimate quietus.
And here I thought it was just a clever way to say, oops, I burned the eggs again.
Well, it served that purpose too. But think about it. Isn't it fascinating to consider that everything will eventually just wind down? It's like the universe itself is running out of steam.
So there is no unlimited steam. But I think most people would be more concerned about the fire than about the end of all things.
And yet, there we were, listening to Seymour explain how the universe's inevitable demise was somehow connected to his inability to make a simple breakfast.
And it wasn't just breakfast, Shadow. There were pancakes, sausages, and what was left of the coffee maker.
Ah, yes, the coffee maker. A tragic casualty in the battle against entropy. But you see, the concept of heat death isn't just about things breaking down. It's about inevitability. No matter how much we fight it, no matter how hard we try to hold things together, everything eventually succumbs to entropy. The fire in my kitchen was just an example on a smaller scale.
So you're saying that your kitchen fire was unavoidable, that it was a natural consequence of the universe's tendency toward chaos.
Exactly. Just like how eventually the stars will burn out, the galaxies will drift apart, and the universe will go cold and dark. My kitchen was just following the same path.
I don't know about you, Chalmers, but I'm starting to feel like we were witnessing something historical. Maybe we should call the scientist instead of the fire department.
Or maybe Seymour should just stick to toast and cereal. Those are a bit harder to burn.
As entertaining as this theory is, Seymour, I'm still curious. What was the actual trigger for this cosmic event? I mean, what really started the fire?
Well, if we're being honest, it might have had something to do with the fact that I got a bit distracted while trying to perfect my sulfur recipe. The temperature needed to be just right and, well, things got out of hand.
A bit distracted. You left the oven on supernova setting while you were busy explaining dark matter to Shadow?
And somehow, I'm the one who ended up with burnt pancake in my hair.
I'm beginning to see a pattern here, Seymour. It's not the first time your culinary experiments have led to unexpected results.
True. But every great chef takes risks, Gary. Sometimes those risks just happen to involve a bit of singed hair and a call to the fire department.
Speaking of which, how did the fire department react when they arrived? Did you try to explain the heat death of the universe to them too? Whoa!
Oh, that was the best part. The firefighters looked more confused by Seymour's explanation than by the actual fire. They were expecting to put out a kitchen blaze, not get a crash course in cosmology.
I wouldn't be surprised if they started second, guessing their career choices after that.
Well, they did manage to put out the fire, and I think they learned a little something about the universe in the process.
I'm sure they did. But Seymour, you have to admit this was a pretty elaborate way to cover up a cooking mistake.
Well, you're going to go down flames. You might as well do it with a touch of cosmic flair, right?
Hey, at least it wasn't boring. I don't think any of us will forget that morning anytime soon.
Or the smell.
That's the spirit. Life's too short to take things too seriously. Besides, it's all just part of the grand tapestry of the universe.
Well, Seymour, you've certainly woven quite the story. But I'm still left wondering, what did you do after the fire was out and the firefighters were gone? Did you actually manage to salvage breakfast?
Oh, we tried. But let's just say that after everything that happened, we weren't exactly hungry for burnt vegan bacon.
Or what was left of the coffee. It tasted like it had been brewed in the heart of a dying star. The only thing missing was that the forbidden book could have reappeared through a portal that Skinner created in the kitchen with his cosmic entropy. I don't want to have to catch baddies again and take the remains of an ion grenade to the recycling center.
Hey, at least it was definitely a unique flavor profile and there is no forbidden book anymore. But, even if breakfast was a bit of a bust, the experience itself was worth it. We bonded over a shared crisis and we all learned something about entropy and the heat death of the universe.
I suppose that's one way to look at it. And Seymour, you've always had a knack for turning disasters into, well, something educational at least.
That's the beauty of life, Gary. Every moment, no matter how chaotic, is a learning opportunity. And I like to think that I'm helping to expand the minds of those around me, one burnt breakfast at a time.
You know what? I'm starting to see the upside. At least we can say we were there for the great kitchen catastrophe of Memafield.
And survived to tell the tale. Though next time, I'll bring my own breakfast, just in case.
Probably a wise decision, Shadow. Anya from Overwatch is doing that too very often. But let's circle back to this heat-death concept for a moment. Seymour, you've piqued my curiosity. How exactly did you come up with that as an excuse? It's not exactly the first thing that comes to mind when the smoke alarm goes off.
It's all about staying calm under pressure, Gary. When you're faced with a crisis, your mind has to work quickly, and in that moment, as I saw the flames licking up the side of the stove, I couldn't help but think about how everything eventually breaks down. The idea just clicked.
And you didn't just stop there. You went into full professor mode, lecturing us on cosmic principles while I was racing to open windows, and Shadow was trying to figure out if we needed to evacuate.
It was like being stuck in a physics class where the final exam was survival.
I'm still amazed you managed to turn it into a teaching moment. Though I have to wonder, did you expect any of us to actually believe that the fire was inevitable because of the universe's fate?
Well, I was hoping it would at least distract you long enough to forget about the charred remains of breakfast, and who knows, maybe I planted a seed of curiosity about the cosmos in your minds.
Oh, you definitely did that. I've got enough curiosity to last a lifetime, though I'm not sure I needed it paired with burnt toast.
And now I have more questions than answers about the universe. And about Seymour's cooking skills.
It certainly made for an unforgettable experience. But I think we all learned something important. The kitchen is a dangerous place when Seymour's in it.
But that's what makes life interesting, isn't it? The unpredictability, the surprises, the moments where we're faced with the unknown. It's all part of the adventure.
I can't argue with that. It definitely keeps things exciting around here.
Exciting, yes. Safe, not so much.
Well, Seymour, I have to hand it to you. You've managed to turn what could have been a disaster into an event we'll be talking about for a long time. But tell me, have you considered maybe simplifying things in the kitchen a bit for the sake of everyone's safety?
I've thought about it, Gary. But where's the fun in that? Besides, every great chef has to take risks. You can't create a masterpiece without breaking a few eggs. Or, in my case, burning them.
Just try not to break the universe next time, okay?
Or at least give us a heads up so we can be prepared for the next cosmic event.
I think we've all learned to expect the unexpected when it comes to you, Seymour. But despite the chaos, there's something kind of endearing about your Let's call them unconventional methods.
I appreciate that, Gary. It's all about embracing the chaos and finding the beauty in the unexpected. And who knows, maybe one day I'll get it right.
Until then, we'll just have to keep our fire extinguishers handy.
And maybe invest in some fireproof aprons.
Not a bad idea, Shadow. But Seymour, as much as I enjoy your creative excuses, I think we should aim for fewer fires in the future. Agreed?
Agreed, Sonic. But I can't promise that my experiments in the kitchen won't occasionally flare up. After all, science and cooking requires a bit of trial and error.
Well, as long as we're not the ones getting caught in the crossfire, I'm all for a little experimentation.
Just let us know when you're planning your next culinary experiment so we can be safely out of range.
I think that's a reasonable request. But I have to say, Seymour, despite everything, you've managed to keep us all entertained, and maybe even a little bit educated along the way.
That's the goal, Gary. To blend a little bit of knowledge with a lot of fun. And if that means the occasional kitchen fire, well, that's just the price of adventure.
Here's to more adventures and maybe fewer fire alarms.
Yeah. And fewer burnt breakfasts.
I'll second that.
So, after the fire was out and the heat death of my kitchen had been averted, we all sat down to reflect on the day's events, you know. Sonic, you brought up something interesting during that little debrief. You asked what other cosmic phenomena might explain my cooking disasters. Care to elaborate on that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we're gonna blame kitchen mishaps on the grand workings of the universe, why stop at the heat death? There's a whole cosmos of excuses out there just waiting to be used.
Somehow, I don't think the universe is going to take kindly to being blamed for Seymour's lack of culinary skills.
But it's an intriguing thought. Imagine, Seymour, you could have a whole repertoire of excuses based on astrophysics. It could become your signature.
Now that's an idea I can get behind. I mean, Aurora Borealis was starting it all. So what other phenomena should I be prepared to blame next time? I'm always looking to expand my arsenal.
Well, there's always the Big Bang Theory. You could say that your cooking is just recreating the explosive forces that birthed the universe. It's all about embracing those primordial energies.
Or you could go with black holes. Maybe you could explain that your pot roast was sucked into an event horizon, and that's why no one can find it or eat it.
Black holes. Now there's a thought. I could even say that the burnt edges are just where the matter couldn't escape the gravitational pull.
It's certainly more imaginative than the usual "I left it in the oven too long" excuse, though I'm not sure how many people will buy into it.
And if you really want to get creative, you could blame it on a supernova. You know, sorry about the charred remains of dinner, but my Sevel underwent a sudden catastrophic collapse followed by a thermonuclear explosion.
You might need to dial it back a notch. Sonic, we're trying to explain a kitchen mishap, not the end of a star.
Oh, I don't know, Shadow. I think there's some merit to the supernova idea. After all, cooking is like balancing delicate forces, and sometimes those forces just, well, implode.
But wouldn't that imply that your cooking is on the verge of collapse at any given moment? Not exactly a confidence booster for your dinner guests.
Hey, at least it would keep things interesting. Every meal would be an adventure, with the potential for either a culinary masterpiece or an epic cosmic event.
I think we've already experienced the latter more than once.
And think of the conversations it would spark. Every dinner party would turn into a discussion about the mysteries of the universe. It's all about expanding horizons, culinary and cosmic.
Speaking of horizons, how about the concept of cosmic inflation? You could say that your Suffo was just following the natural course of rapid expansion, and that's why it overflowed the dish.
Or how about dark matter? Sorry, I can't explain what happened to the dessert. It's made of dark matter. Just trust me. It's there even if you can't see it.
And the inevitable response would be, are you sure it's not just burnt?
Well, dark matter is elusive by nature, right? Maybe my cooking is too advanced for conventional taste buds to comprehend.
That's one way to look at it, but I have to say, Seymour, you got quite the knack for turning potential disasters into opportunities for scientific exploration.
And you know what? It kind of makes sense. I mean, cooking is chemistry, after all. You're just taking it to a whole new level. Right up there with astrophysics.
I felt sure the kitchen was meant to be a laboratory for cosmic experiments, but here we are.
And isn't that the beauty of it? There's something poetic about blending the science of cooking with the mysteries of the universe. It adds a whole new dimension to the culinary arts.
You're certainly thinking outside the box, Seymour, but I can't help but wonder, how did Sonic and Shadow end up getting involved in this cosmic cooking escapade in the first place?
Well, it all started with a simple invitation to breakfast. I thought it would be a great way to catch up with Seymour, but I didn't realize we'd be catching up over an impromptu lesson in astrophysics.
And I was just trying to enjoy my morning without any interstellar incidents. But then the smoke started billowing, and before I knew it, we were deep into a discussion about the fate of the universe.
It's funny how these things just happen, isn't it? 1 minute you're cracking eggs, and the next you're contemplating the end of all things.
I have to admit, it's a unique way to start the day, but Sonic's Shadow, what did you both think when Seymour started comparing his cooking to cosmic events? Were you on board with the idea, or were you just trying to keep up?
Honestly, I was all in. I mean, how often do you get the chance to mix breakfast with a crash course in astrophysics? It's not something you see every day, and it definitely made things more interesting.
I was more focused on making sure we didn't end up needing a new kitchen. But once it was clear that the fire was under control, I couldn't help but get caught up in the conversation. There's something oddly captivating about the way Seymour can tie together cooking disasters and cosmic theories.
It's all about making connections, Shadow. Everything in the universe is linked in some way, whether it's the expansion of galaxies or the expansion of pancake batter on a griddle.
I'll give you that, Seymour. You've got a unique perspective on things, but I have to ask, what did you all take away from that morning? Did it change how you look at the universe or at breakfast?
It definitely gave me a new appreciation for the unpredictability of life. I mean, if a simple breakfast can turn into a discussion about the end of the universe, who knows what other surprises are out there?
It made me think about how everything is connected, even in ways we don't expect. And maybe it's a reminder to be prepared for anything, even if that means keeping an extinguisher handy when Seymour's in the kitchen.
And for me, it was a reminder of the beauty of exploration, whether it's in the kitchen or in the cosmos. There's always something new to discover, something unexpected to learn.
It sounds like it was a memorable experience for all of you. And it's not every day that you get to blend a cooking mishap with a cosmic metaphor. But Seymour, what's next for you? Are you planning any more culinary experiments, or should we all be on high alert?
Yeah! And do we need to clear our calendars for another cosmic breakfast?
And should we bring our own fire extinguishers this time?
Oh, don't worry, I got plenty of new ideas brewing. But I've learned from my mistakes, or at least I've learned to keep a closer eye on the oven timer. As for what's next, well, let's just say I'm working on something that's out of this world.
I'm not sure if that's reassuring or not, but I'm definitely curious. Whatever it is, I'm sure it will be an experience to remember.
And who knows? Maybe we'll learn something new about the universe in the process.
As long as we don't learn it through trial by fire, I'm in.
I promise no more unexpected infernos. Just good food, great company, and maybe a little bit of cosmic curiosity.
It sounds like a plan I can get behind. And who knows? Maybe the next time we sit down for breakfast, we'll be discussing wormholes or parallel universes.
I'll bring the coffee, and maybe some fireproof mugs from Half-Life 1, just in case.
And I'll bring my skepticism, but also an open mind. After all, you never know what Seymour's gonna come up with next.
And that's the spirit. Life's too short to be predictable. It's all about embracing the unexpected and finding joy in the surprises. And if that means turning breakfast into a discussion about the fate of the cosmos, well, I'd say we're on the right track.
Agreed, Seymour. Here's to more adventures, more discoveries, and hopefully fewer kitchen fires.
And to keeping the universe and our breakfast intact.
Or at least in one piece.
Well, after talking quite a lot about Skinner's bad excuse for the fire, it starts me thinking, could we turn our so-called disasters into something meaningful just by changing the way we look at them?
I think so. I mean, take that breakfast incident. Sure, it was chaotic, and sure, it might have left a few scorch marks on the ceiling, but it also gave us a chance to bond, to laugh, and to talk about things we might not have otherwise.
And it gave me a reason to question my life choices. But I guess that's something too.
Exactly. It's all about how you frame it. You can either see it as a disaster or as an opportunity to learn something new, like how to use a fire extinguisher.
Or how to think on your feet when the universe throws a curveball your way. It's those moments of quick thinking and adaptability that really define who we are.
And who we want to be. Maybe the universe isn't out to get us after all. Maybe it's just giving us a little nudge to see how we handle the unexpected.
Or it's just testing our patience. But I suppose there's something to be said for keeping a level head in the midst of chaos.
Yeah, that's the spirit, Shadow. Embrace the chaos, and you'll find that even in the most unexpected moments, there's a chance to grow, to learn, and maybe even to laugh.
Speaking of chaos, Seymour, do you remember that time we tried to organize a simple picnic? Why was it? Last summer. That turned into quite the adventure, didn't it?
Oh, I remember that. It was supposed to be a relaxing day out in the park, but of course, the universe had other plans.
How could I forget? I think we spent more time chasing after our food than actually eating it.
Yes, the infamous picnic. What started as a peaceful afternoon quickly devolved into a battle against the elements and a few overly curious animals.
It was supposed to be simple. A nice spread, some good conversation, and a chance to enjoy the great outdoors. But somehow, everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
It started with the ants, didn't it? I mean, who knew they could mobilize so quickly? 1 minute, the food's untouched, and the next, it's like they're staging a takeover.
And then there was the wind. I still can't believe how many sandwiches we lost to that gust. It was like the universe was saying, you didn't really need those, did you?
I remember trying to save the potato salad and ending up with it splattered all over my shirt. And let's not forget the seagulls. They were relentless.
Those seagulls were definitely not part of the original plan, but somehow, amidst all the chaos, we managed to make it work.
And don't forget the van goat. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a car comes out of the bush, and in a moment, worthy of an action film, a goat comes out of the van, flies over our heads, and bang! The goat scooped up our last baguette with its tongue, flew on, did a backflip on the wall, and flew back into its van and drove off in no time at all.
Ah, that little mischievous goat. Well, it wasn't the picnic we envisioned, but it was certainly memorable.
And that's just it. Sometimes it's the unexpected moments that stick with us the most. Sure, the day didn't go as planned, but we still had a great time. It was just a different kind of fun.
Fun might be one word for it. Looking back, it's the kind of story you laugh about, even if it wasn't exactly amusing at the time.
And that's the magic of it. In the moment, it might seem like everything's falling apart, but later on, you realize those are the moments that make life interesting. They give you stories to tell, lessons to learn, and memories to cherish.
It's a reminder that even when things don't go according to plan, there's still value in the experience. And sometimes those unexpected twists are what make the journey worthwhile.
Exactly. It's all about perspective. You can either get frustrated when things don't go your way, or you can roll with it and see where the adventure takes you.
And sometimes it takes you right into a swarm of angry ants or a flock of thieving seagulls. But I suppose that's all part of the adventure.
And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. Those are the moments that make life rich and full. They remind us that even in the midst of chaos, there's always something to appreciate, something to learn.
Like the importance of securing your food at a picnic, or maybe just avoiding picnics altogether.
Or investing in ant-proof containers. But really, it's about finding the silver lining, even when things seem to be going off the rails.
I guess that's true. And looking back, it does make for a good story. Maybe the universe was just giving us a nudge to see the humor in the situation.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about, finding the joy in the unexpected, the laughter in the midst of chaos. Because at the end of the day, it's those moments that shape us, that give us stories to tell and memories to hold on to.
And isn't that what life is all about? Embracing the unexpected, finding meaning in the chaos, and always being ready for the next adventure.
I couldn't agree more. So, here's to more unexpected moments, more adventures, and more chances to see the universe in a whole new way.
And hopefully, fewer encounters with overly enthusiastic seagulls or goats.
Here. And with that, I think we've come full circle. From the heat death of the universe to the chaos of a simple picnic, we've explored the highs and lows of life's little surprises.
So, after surviving that picnic debacle in the cosmic breakfast, it's clear that life in Memmerfield is anything but ordinary. But you know, it got me thinking, what's the most bizarre, out of this world event you've ever experienced? I mean, beyond the kitchen fires and flying sandwiches.
Oh, that's a tough one, Shadow. There have been so many strange occurrences, it's hard to pick just one. But if I had to choose, I'd say the time when the entire town seemed to be caught in some kind of gravitational anomaly. You remember that, don't you?
Oh, I remember it all right. It was like gravity just decided to take a day off. Everything was floating. Cars, people. Even the buildings were starting to lift off the ground. It was like we were in some kind of zero-gravity zone.
Don't remind me. I spent half the day trying to keep my feet on the ground, and the other half trying to figure out who or what caused it.
That was one for the books, all right. I still can't believe we didn't end up floating off into space. What do you think caused it, Chalmers? Some kind of cosmic prank, or was there a scientific explanation?
Well, as much as I'd love to blame it on some mischievous alien force, the truth is a bit more mundane, though no less fascinating. You see, what happened that day was likely due to a localized gravitational anomaly, something that can occur when there's a sudden and intense distortion in the fabric of space-time.
Wait, you're telling me that space-time just decided to stretch itself out like a piece of taffy?
In a manner of speaking, yes. Gravitational anomalies can happen for a variety of reasons. Anything from the presence of a massive yet hidden object nearby to fluctuations in dark matter. Now, in our case, it's possible that Memmerfield briefly intersected with a gravitational wave. These waves are ripples in spacetime caused by some of the most violent and energetic processes in the universe, like black holes merging or neutron stars colliding.
So you're saying we were caught in the crossfire of some interstellar boxing match?
It's one way to look at it. Gravitational waves travel through space, distorting everything in their path, albeit usually on a microscopic level. But if the wave is strong enough and we were in just the right, or wrong, place at the right time, it could theoretically create a temporary shift in gravity, just enough to make things feel a bit floaty.
Ah, so that's what Skinner means with his levitation skills. It's like the universe just gave us a little nudge to remind us how small we are in the grand scheme of things.
And here I was thinking it was just the result of one of my culinary experiments gone awry. I have been known to create the occasional black hole in the oven, but this was on a whole different scale.
Thankfully, Seymour, this one wasn't your doing, though I do appreciate your willingness to take responsibility for the occasional cosmic mishap.
So what did we learn from all this?
Well, it's a reminder that we're constantly interacting with forces much larger than ourselves, often without even realizing it. The universe is a complex and dynamic place, and sometimes we're just along for the ride.
And what a ride it is. I mean, how many people can say they floated around their own town like they were on the moon? It's not every day you get to experience something like that.
True. And it certainly gave us a new perspective. Literally, I never thought I'd see the day when my house would try to lift off like a red balloon in the distance.
I like that metaphor. I see you liked my red balloon story. But yes, it's a good thing we had enough sense to tether everything down before things really got out of hand, though I must say the sight of floating furniture and cars was something I won't soon forget.
Or the way people were trying to navigate the streets like they were swimming through the air. It was chaos, but in a way, it was also kind of beautiful.
Beautiful, maybe, but also dangerous. If that gravitational anomaly had lasted much longer, who knows what could have happened? We were lucky it dissipated when it did.
Indeed. And that's another thing to remember. The universe is full of surprises, but it's also unpredictable. Events like that remind us to stay on our toes, to be prepared for the unexpected.
And to appreciate the moments of calm when they come, because you never know when you'll find yourself floating around your living room like an astronaut on a space swap.
You know, now that we're talking about all this, it makes me wonder, how many other phenomena are out there just waiting to surprise us? I mean, if gravity can take a day off, what else could happen?
The possibilities are endless. We could encounter everything from time anomalies to spontaneous teleportation events or spontaneous human combustion. The universe is vast and full of mysteries, and we've only scratched the surface of what's out there.
Let's just hope the next anomaly is something a little less disorienting. I prefer to keep my feet on solid ground from now on.
Agreed, but at the same time, I can't help but feel a little excited at the thought of what might be around the corner. Life in Memberfield is never dull, that's for sure.
And that's what makes it so fascinating. We're living in a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary blend together, where every day holds the potential for something new and unexpected.
That's what I love about it, too. There's always something to keep you on your toes, something that makes you see the world in a different way. It's like living in a constant state of wonder.
Or maybe it's just a state of constant chaos. I like that idea. As a professional chaos energy connoisseur myself, but I guess that's part of the charm.
And it's a charm I wouldn't trade for anything, sure. We've had our share of close calls and strange experiences, but it's those very moments that make life so rich and full of stories.
Stories that we'll be telling for years to come. And who knows? Maybe one day we'll look back on all of this and see it as just the beginning of our adventures.
I like the sound of that. The beginning of something great. Something we'll be talking about for generations. After all, who knows what the future holds?
Yeah, hopefully. Something a little more predictable. But I suppose a little unpredictability isn't so bad, as long as we're ready for it.
And that's the key. Being ready for whatever comes our way. Because no matter what happens, we've got each other to face it with. And that's what makes all the difference.
Well said, Seymour. Together, there's nothing we can't handle. Whether it's floating furniture or kitchen fires, we'll take it all in stride.
And we'll do it with a smile. Because at the end of the day, it's the memories we make along the way that matter the most.
And hopefully, those memories don't include too many more surprises. But if they do, at least we'll be ready.
Exactly. So here's to the adventures yet to come, the mysteries yet to be solved, and the memories yet to be made.
And to the universe, with all its quirks and surprises, may it continue to keep us on our toes and keep us guessing.
And may we always find the humor and joy in whatever comes our way, because that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Even if it means dealing with floating houses and disappearing gravity. But hey, that's just part of the deal, right?
Right. And with that, I think we've covered just about everything, from cosmic breakfast to gravitational anomalies. It's been quite the journey.
And one that's far from over. There's always more to explore, more to learn, and more to laugh about.
Well, my dear friends, it's been quite the journey through the cosmos of Memberfield today. We've tackled everything from burnt breakfasts to gravitational anomalies. I have to say, it's been one of our more out there episodes.
Absolutely, Seymour. We've gone from kitchen mishaps to cosmic waves and somehow managed to make it all connect. It's a testament to the strange and wonderful world we live in, and our ability to find the humor in it all.
I've got to admit, I didn't expect to be talking about the end of the universe when I woke up this morning. But then again, with you two, I guess I should have seen it coming.
Yeah, it's always something unexpected around here. But I have to say, it's better than the usual day-to-day grind. Where else could we discuss both science and Seymour's latest kitchen disaster?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Shadow. I like to think of my kitchen as a place where science and art collide, sometimes quite literally. And if that means the occasional mishap, well, it's all part of the experiment.
And what an experiment it is. But let's not forget that these mishaps can lead to some of the most interesting discoveries. After all, many great scientific breakthroughs were born from accidents.
That's right. Penicillin, X-rays, even the microwave. None of those would exist if someone hadn't made a mistake along the way. Who knows, Seymour? Maybe your kitchen escapades will lead to the next big thing.
I shudder to think what that might be. But you're right, Sonic. Sometimes the best ideas come from the most unexpected places.
You've got a point there, Sonic. Maybe my next charred creation will be a breakthrough in culinary science. Perhaps I'll invent a dish that can survive the heat, death of the universe itself.
If anyone could pull that off, Seymour, it would be you. But speaking of the heat death, it's fascinating to consider that while we might joke about it, the concept itself is rooted in some of the most profound science we have.
How so, Chalmers? I mean, I get that it's the universe cooling down and all, but what's the real science behind it?
The heat death of the universe is based on the second law of thermodynamics, which states that in an isolated system, entropy, or disorder, will always increase over time. Essentially, the universe is constantly moving toward a state of maximum entropy, where all energy is evenly spread out and no more work can be done.
So it's like the universe is running out of steam?
Exactly. As stars burn out and galaxies drift apart, the universe will eventually reach a point where there's no more usable energy left. Everything will be at the same temperature, and nothing will be able to change or move. Hence the so-called heat death.
That's pretty mind-blowing. So, in the far future, everything just kind of stops.
That's one theory, yes. Of course, we're talking about a time scale that's unimaginably long. Trillions upon trillions of years from now, but it's a sobering thought, isn't it? That everything we know will eventually fade away into a cold, dark silence, just like Doctor Who once experienced that feeling at the edge of the universe.
It is, but at the same time, it makes you appreciate the here and now even more. We're alive in a universe that's still full of energy, full of life, full of possibility.
Exactly. And that's why we've got to make the most of it while we can. We've got to run fast, live loud, and enjoy every moment.
And maybe, just maybe, avoid getting too caught up in the big picture. It's easy to get lost in the enormity of it all. But sometimes it's the small things that matter most.
Well said, Shadow. It's the little moments, the laughter, the shared experiences that make life worth living. And as long as we have those, we've got everything we need.
Absolutely. So here's to the little moments. Like this one right here, where we're all together, talking about the mysteries of the universe and sharing a laugh.
And here's to all the adventures we've had and all the ones still to come, no matter what the future holds. We'll face it head on, with a smile, and maybe a joke or two.
As long as those jokes don't involve another kitchen fire, I'm in.
I promise, Shadow, no more kitchen fires. At least not today. But who knows what tomorrow will bring?
And that's the beauty of it, Seymour. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. The universe is full of surprises, and so is life. We just have to be ready to embrace them, whatever they may be.
You know, for all this talk about the end of the universe, I'm feeling pretty good about things. We've got a lot to be thankful for, and a lot to look forward to.
I agree. And who knows? Maybe by the time the heat death rolls around, we'll have figured out a way to beat it. Maybe we'll find a way to keep the universe going or create a new one altogether.
Now that's a thought. Maybe our descendants will be cooking up cosmic breakfasts in a whole new universe, one where burnt toast is a thing of the past.
Or perhaps they'll look back at us as the pioneers who started it all. The ones who asked the big questions and dared to dream of what could be.
And who knows? Maybe they'll be listening to our podcasts, learning from our experiences and laughing at our jokes.
Let's just hope they have better cooking skills.
Touch, Shadow, touch. But in all seriousness, it's been a pleasure to share this journey with all of you, from the everyday moments to the cosmic mysteries. It's been an adventure I wouldn't trade for anything.
And there's plenty more where that came from. The universe is vast, and so is our curiosity. We'll keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep finding the humor in it all.
And we'll keep running, keep laughing, and keep living life to the fullest. Because that's what it's all about, right? Making the most of every moment.
Exactly. Because in the end, it's not about how much time we have, but how we spend it. And I'd say we're spending it pretty well.
Couldn't agree more, Shadow. So, let's raise a metaphorical glass to the mysteries of the universe, to the bonds of friendship, and to the endless possibilities that lie ahead.
Here's to the journey and to all the surprises it holds. May we continue to face them with courage, curiosity, and a healthy dose of humor.
And may we never lose sight of what's important, the people we share it with, the memories we make, and the laughter that keeps us going.
Here's to the future, and to whatever it may bring.
And with that, I think we've said all there is to say for today. But don't worry, there's always tomorrow, and who knows what new adventures await.
Indeed. So until then, stay curious, stay hopeful, and keep looking up at the stars, because the universe is full of wonders, and we've only just begun to explore them.
See you next time, folks. And remember, life's a journey, so make it a good one.
And try not to burn any more breakfasts. Thanks for listening.
See you next time on Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast.